everyone, Jamie with Sweet Sentiment here, and we're going to color our very first swatch. Let's try that again. I decided to start with the darkest of hair colors, or one of the darker of hair colors, because I think it's the most dramatic. So I'm going to share with you how to make this little swatch happen. First things first, we're going to start with the skin tone. I like to always color the skin tone of everything first, and I have my skin tone markers here. So I'm going to start with my E000. And what I'm going to do is I always rotate the paper so that my hand is nice and comfortable. And I'm just going to do one quick wash all over her face with the E000. Reason I'm doing this skin tone on a hair swatch is because I like to do the skin tone all the same so that I can really compare the hair. So I'm using a very basic skin tone, nothing wild and crazy, a very classic skin tone, so that each of my hair swatches has the same base. So I'll be using the same skin tone as we go through all of the hair swatches in different videos. Then I'm going to go to my darkest color, my E04, and I always take both caps off because Copic markers are pressurized. The barrel has pressure in it, and so if you take both caps off, you'll avoid getting those blobs and blemishes and things like that on your coloring. So I'm just going to do a nice quick shadow under her hair because I'm thinking that the light would be shining pretty much directly in front of her onto her face. And so I'm just going to go around one nice, smooth, even line. And I'm going to do some little shadowing behind her nose. And then I'm going to come down onto her neck where her chin would leave a shadow. And shadow that in for you. Okay, just quick little shadows. Again, I'm not doing anything super major. The focus here is the hair and not the skin, but I wanted to give you guys a quick little skin tutorial here. Okay, so there we go with that. That's our shadow, our darkest color. Now I'm going to pop into E11, which is a step down from the dark color. And what I'm going to do is where that dark color is laid and not where the highlight is, I'm going to go and I'm going to bridge the gap between that highlight area and that darker color. So I'm just making that nice and smooth. I'm going to color around her ear. I'm going to start to go down the side of her face, about to where her neck is. Same thing with this. Nice and smooth around her ear and down to where her neck starts. And then her nose, same thing, just adding some shadow. Again, where that shadow underneath her neck is. And this time I'm going to go where her shirt will leave a little bit of a shadow on her chest. And then her arms. And you can see I'm just going through this really quickly, okay? Again, I'm not going to worry too much about the skin because the skin is not the focus of this swatch, but I definitely want her to have a nice even skin so that it's pleasing to the eye. E21, same thing. I'm going to get a little bit more liberal with my ink here because E21 is going to be the true color of her face. So as you notice, getting a tiny bit more liberal with this, well, not a tiny bit, a lot more liberal with this color to start to shade in that face. The center color of your Copic color blend or any color blend is generally the true color of what that person's skin or hair or anything is. Meaning it would be the color that you would see if there was no highlight and no shadow. That's what I mean by true color. All right. It looks kind of wonky, I know, I understand. Looks a little bit wonky. E00 is now my next step down, and I'm gonna go ahead and go inside of her eyes here, and I'm just gonna blend this out. I'm gonna use a little bit of circle blending just because this marker is so much lighter than the others. And I want them to blend well. Again, up on her nose, a little bit of circle blending there too. In the center of her ears. And you see this is just a really quick skin tone. Just so that it doesn't look weird when you color her hair. Now that lightest color, I'm gonna go all the way back down to my E000. And the reason I don't take both caps off on this one is because I know that this one is not super full. You learn to learn your markers, just like you do your children kind of thing. You know which marker behaves which way. So there we go. I have a nice even skin tone there for her. I actually see where I went out of the lines some, so I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm going to push that back into the lines. The colorless blender doesn't actually blend. It is kind of more of like a corrector. It repels the ink. So that's why I'm using it to push the ink back into that line, because it will repel it from where I'm touching the paper with it. All right, now, I also like to shade in the shirt just a little bit. So I have my C3, just because otherwise, to me, it looks kind of odd to have like a very stark white shirt with no shading. So I use this to practice my white. And so I'm using a cool white on this one. And I'm just putting a little bit of shadow in the corners. Then I'm gonna take my C1 and I'm gonna continue the shadow down a little bit. Again, just super quick, nothing too involved. Okay. Then I'm gonna take my colorless blender. And again, like I said, it's just a repellent. This repels the ink. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that to push those two inks together, and I'm gonna push them into the shadow. And it'll give you that super light, soft look, just like her face is casting a shadow on her little white tank top here. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna color this amazing hair. I'm going to start with this W10 down here. I love, love, love these swatches because they give me such great ideas on where to start my tones with, where to start my hair color with, and all of that stuff. And then if I decide that I want to kind of branch off from here, it gives me a good starting point on where to branch off from. I'm going to start with this W10. So I'm going to go into where I think the shadows are going to be on her hair. I know her bun is going to leave a shadow on her hair, so I'm going to use these little like paintbrush strokes because hair has a lot of texture to it. So I'm going to hold my marker really close to the nib, just like this, and I'm going to use these little kind of paintbrush stroke feeling with the nib of my marker. You can either do this towards your body, like I'm doing right now, or if you're more comfortable, you can do it away from your body, and I'll show you how that looks as well. Sometimes I can do it, you know, away from my body better. Sometimes I have to do it towards my body. So it really just depends on what's more comfortable for you. There's really no right or wrong way. So I'm going to continue with these little brush strokes, just really lightly, up from behind her ears. The point is not to let the marker really soak into the paper. You want to just let it glide across the top of the paper. I'm also going to come in from the bottom of her bun. And the most important thing when you're coloring hair is to go with the direction of the hair. So where these artist drawn lines are that Christine drew of this adorable little girl, I want to follow those lines that she drew around. The reason I want to do that is because it will trick the eye into thinking that this is a three-dimensional object. I'm going to do the same thing from the top of her bun. Just come down, follow those artist drawn lines down in this direction and in this direction, because we know that the hair is switching directions on this bun. Okay, just like that. Now I know she has a little part in her hair right here, so I'm going to go ahead and define that part with this dark marker as well. Just a few brush strokes. Remember, always following the direction of the hair. And you can feel free to pause this video and start it over again, and pause it and start it over again. I am moving really, really fast on this video. It's meant to just be a quick little tutorial. If you're interested in coloring classes, I teach coloring classes obviously at a much slower pace through Sweet Sentiment. So you can go to www.sweetsentiment.us and click on classes, and there's all kinds of coloring classes there. The image that we are using today is from Paper Nest Dolls, and you can go to www.papernestdolls.com and check out all of her images. There we go. So that first hair color is done. So I'm also going to take this pen and I'm going to color in this box. I'm going to do it the exact same way that I colored the hair, with these little brush strokes. I like to leave some texture in this box as well, so that when I look at it, I immediately know that it's a hair swatch and not a skin swatch. So there we go, there's our W10. Now we have our E49. I love how rich and dark this hair color comes out. I will tell you, when you're coloring this, you're going to feel like you totally messed it up, because it's a very tonal hair color until the very end, meaning it looks like a lot of the same color until the very end. So again, all these brush strokes I'm doing, following the curve of her head, the direction that her hair is growing or is pulled back. Always following those artist-drawn lines. The biggest point with this is that we're trying to make a two-dimensional object look like a three-dimensional object. So we're learning how and where to put these colors. I'm sorry, I'm all the way off the screen here. How and where to put these colors to make them look like they are making this a three-dimensional object. So that's the key with all of this. The good thing is these colors are already picked out for you on the swatches. So once you've colored in your swatch and you know how to do it, then you can use this color on any other stamp that you're coloring. And you can use this same technique on any other stamp that you're coloring. And that's the best thing about these swatches, is when you have no idea what color to color somebody's hair, or a lot of times it gives me ideas on other things. Like, I think that this would be a magnificent color on a tree. So it definitely gives you lots of fun ideas on how to use these colors. And again, don't forget to color down here. Just like that. It's also a great way to practice your brush strokes. All right, now we're going to switch over to that E77. This one is called Maroon, and this is where that cup of espresso kind of term comes from, because this really adds that kind of warm color, that warm espresso color. It's almost a chocolatey color. I love coloring hair because it's so fun for me to watch it develop and watch it turn into something beautiful. You have to be patient with it. It takes a minute to get there, especially with this hair color, because like I said, it's quite tonal at first. It looks like the same color over and over, especially with those dark ones. But then it all of a sudden develops into something really, really beautiful. Again, notice with each brush stroke, I'm following the shape of the hair wherever I go. Okay. Oops, I missed a spot right here. Okay, and then down here, same brush strokes. There we go. All right, now to the E47. This E47 again is quite dark. It is called dark brown after all. We're gonna still leave some white highlight in there, but we're gonna keep going and we're gonna essentially connect these two colors. Okay, notice there's still some white highlight in there. There's still some room. I want that. That's important for our next color. And once you get the shadows laid down, all of the hair color tends to go quite a bit faster. It's all the thinking that's involved for laying down that shadow that really makes this take a while. Okay, and oops, I forget this like every time. Okay, there we go. Now, notice this looks very, very tonal, very flat almost. We are getting lighter and lighter, but it's so gradual. So when I take this E57, this is called light walnut. This is what's really gonna bring this hair alive. So I'm gonna start up here, almost all the way back into that second color. And I'm just gonna make these nice, light, soft strokes, paintbrush strokes, all the way from just shy of that shadow all the way through that white highlight. And again, I'm always following the direction of the hair, the artist drawn lines. And I love how this color just makes this hair color come alive. It's so pretty and rich and dark. I think it's such a beautiful hair color. Then I'm going to go back from this direction just because I don't want to color outside of the lines. And I'm going to do this. All right, guys, there we go. So that is our very first coloring swatch video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I know it was super fast, so please feel free to pause this, rewind it, go back, watch it 100 million times. That is totally fine with me. From Sweet Sentiment and Paper Nest Dolls, we hope you really enjoyed this series of coloring swatch videos. There will be many, many more to come. And we love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Toodles!